Wanted to welcome all of you to the Peabody Area Chamber of Commerce 2019 Legislative Breakfast. My name is Jenna Cochimilio. I'm the Executive Director of the Chamber. And I'd like to start with a pledge to our flag. If you can all rise and join me. Flag is over here to my right. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'm excited to welcome today's speakers who join me here on my right and left, including our Chamber Chairman, Michael Morey, our signature sponsor, North Shore Bank, represented by Christopher Pesci, who's also a past chairman of the Chamber. Senator Lovely is home today with an illness, and so Hannah Morey will be filling in and reading some remarks from her today, so thank you for joining us, Hannah. We also have Michael Devon from Congressman Seth Moulton's office as District Representative, State Representative Ted Spiliotis, Representative Thomas Walsh, Retailers Association of Massachusetts President John Hurst, and our very own City of Peabody Mayor Edward A. Betancourt Jr. So thank you for joining us. I also wanted to thank the following elected officials for joining us today, including Councilors David Gravel and Pete McGinn, Lake Commissioner Thomas D'Amato, and Lake Commissioner Tom Paris. Thank you both for coming. Appreciate it. So we're able to host events like this. And Tom Gould, I just saw you sneak in, Tom. I'm sorry about that. I apologize. I double-checked my list last night, but you never know. Not well enough, apparently. We're able to host events like this through the generosity of our sponsors. So I have quite a long list, so if you can hold your applause till the end, I'd like to give a shout out to all of them and thank them for their generosity in helping us make this happen today. Our signature sponsor today is North Shore Bank, as you can see behind me, Atlantic Ambulance, Eastern Bank, Chelsea Jewish Life Care, the City of Peabody, Lionwell Auto Group, North Shore Elder Services, Peabody Municipal Light Plant, Salem 5 Bank, Citizens Inn, Land Computer, MRG Construction Management, Phil Richard Insurance. This is like everybody in here. I love it. Elephant Salon and Spa, a brand new member. Thank you very much. Gravock, Holden Oil, Cappy's Fine Wine and Spirits, Metro Credit Union, my alma mater, North Shore Mall, Reed Law Firm, Regulate Yours, and the Terigian Family YMCA. So thank you all for sponsoring today. Each of the businesses and organizations that I just mentioned also sponsored a student from the Peabody Veterans Memorial High's Democracy in Action class and our own, within the Chamber, Young Entrepreneurs Academy, allowing kids from those programs to join us for today's events. We also have a few members that sponsored a student with their ticket purchase, including Joe Lepore of Edward Jones, the Salem News, Paget Business Services, Stadium Oil, and Salem State University. And I'm proud to share that we have over 30 students joining us today. So if you're seated with one, please introduce yourself. I put a lot of thought in our seating charts today so that each of our students looking to start a business or learn more about democracy were able to interact with our members. So feel free to introduce yourself. The Peabody Area Chamber has been supporting and advocating for our area business community for over 87 years. In just the past year, we've welcomed close to 60 new businesses to our membership, hosted over 100 events ranging from educational lunches to early morning networking to free business mentoring sessions, and expanded our offices to the first floor of 49 Lowell Street. Although proud of our past, our Chamber is always looking forward, striving to provide the best resources and connections possible to help our members thrive and grow in a fast-moving, competitive, and modern economy. In 2019, we look forward to working with our local politicians, building owners, and Peabody Main Streets to keep downtown Peabody thriving and growing through improved zoning and infrastructure. It is proven that a vibrant downtown benefits all businesses, not just those on Main Street. And while many of our members are negatively impacted by the convenience of online shopping, the Chamber is working hard to provide the tools and educational resources necessary for our members to remain competitive. Our Chamber started 87 years ago by a group of business owners who combined their voices to make change. So today I challenge all of you to join our united voice to make change once again. Shop at a local business, volunteer for a local nonprofit, bring a colleague to lunch at a local restaurant. We are stronger together, and united, we can keep our local businesses, including yours and mine, alive and thriving. Before we move on to our next speaker, I wanted to share a story about how shopping local really benefited and saved today's event. This past Friday afternoon, I completed the final edits on today's event program, this beautiful document here, our 2019 Advocacy Update. This is a 20-page program filled with sponsor graphics, articles, contributed by today's speakers, and information about the Chamber. It took close to 8 hours to build it, and multiple reviews with my partner in crime, Maria, to ensure that every sponsor, every article, and every graphic looked its best. After printing about 6 of the 220 needed copies, the printer started making terrible noises and eventually refused to print any more. Story of my life. It was 4 p.m. on a Friday, and I was having a small heart attack by myself in the copy room, a little bit of crying. I reached out to our local vendor, Chamber member Business Copy Associates, through our contact, Dave McGinney, who is here in the room with us today. Although BCA was closed at the time that I reached out, Dave responded to my email right away. Not only did he adjust BCA's service schedule for Monday to have someone fix our printer by 9:30 a.m., he also went into work on Saturday and printed all 220 of my programs for me, and then had them delivered. He helped me ensure that all of our sponsors and contributors fulfilled received the promise that we promised to them. Here at the Chamber, we don't just preach it. We also live it, and Dave and BCA are just one of the many reasons why we keep it local. Now I'd like to introduce our 2018-19 Board Chairman, Michael Morey.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming. Thank you, our elected officials, for coming. Being on the stage could be very intimidating with people who speak all the time for a living. So even worse, they might ask me some questions about politics. So I had to do a little research on the internet, because everything we hear there is true. So I learned something about President Trump. He's written 12 books. And I don't know if you know this, every one of them starts on chapter 11. And to be fair, I also learned something. Our local Senator Warren running for president, Starbucks has already done a promotion capitalizing on this. It's called the Liz Warren Special. You walk up to the counter and you order whatever you want, and the person behind you has to pay for it. Always good to add a little levity to the room in this tough political climate. So, since 1931, the Peabody Area Chamber has been considered one of the largest and most influential business groups on the North Shore. Our mission says it best: empowering businesses to succeed while enriching the community, which is truly what we're all about. I want to give you a couple of the highlights of last year under our past president, Chris Fiesel. We transitioned to a new leader, Jenna, who's done a spectacular job of bringing the Chamber into the modern era. We've expanded the Young Entrepreneurs Program through the help of Maria and the getting young folks who are sitting in the room right now ready to be the next future business leaders. We have the Chamber for Good program, which promotes the nonprofit organizations and brings visibility to them in the community, and providing scholarships to local Peabody students as well as children of Chamber members have been real of the highlights. For 2018-19, I have really set out 3 goals along with the board of directors. One is to educate and provide the tools for Peabody Chamber members to help transition towards a more digital economy, to help grow their business, to help them add more visibility. I think 75% of all business transactions now start with a web search, so you need to be prepared and you need to be ready for this new change in the economy. The other thing we want to increase are expanding our membership base, not just with the great work that the Chamber and Peabody Main Streets have done downtown, but extending that to Centennial Park, South and West Peabody as well. And then the last is continue to work with our state and local officials to advocate for our businesses to make this a strong and vibrant community. Right now, I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Christopher Pesci. He's the Vice President of Marketing for North Shore Bank. North Shore Bank recently celebrated their 85th year of membership of the Chamber of Commerce, which is unbelievable. I've had the pleasure of working with Chris for the past few years on the board of directors. They do great work in the community. They make it a really great place to live and work. So right now, I'd like to introduce Chris Pesci.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm not as funny as Mike. It is North Shore Bank's pleasure to once again sponsor this Peabody Chamber Legislative Breakfast. I'd like to thank the Chamber for sponsoring this event and also thank them for all they do for the businesses here in Peabody throughout the year. I'd also like to thank the elected officials for being here with us this morning to discuss some of the challenges and opportunities that businesses in our city face today. North Shore Bank is proud to partner with the city on a lot of important initiatives like education, affordable housing, the downtown revitalization project, initiatives that have made this city an even better place to live, work, and do business in. We have been a staple in the city for over 130 years. Actually, this year marks our 131st year here in Peabody. And we assure you that we will continue our long tradition of meeting the financial and philanthropical needs of the people, families, businesses, and nonprofit organizations in Peabody for the future. We welcome you to visit one of our branches. We have 3 here in Peabody. And we invite you to speak to one of our commercial officers to discuss how we can help your business meet its goals and objectives. Again, let me thank you for being here today, and I wish you all a very happy and prosperous 2019. Thank you.
I'd now like to welcome Hannah Morey up to the stage to speak on behalf of Senator Lovely.
Good morning, everyone. Jenna, thank you for putting on this great event, and thank you to the Peabody Area Chamber of Commerce and inviting Senator Lovely. And unfortunately, as you heard, she is at home ill. Otherwise, she would have definitely been here. Before I begin, I want to acknowledge the students from Mr. McHugh's Democracy in Action class who have joined us today. Last session, the legislature passed and the governor signed into law legislation promoting civics education. And so Senator Lovely is particularly pleased that so many young people have joined us today to see democracy in action. Now more than ever, Now more than ever, we need people of all ages engaged in the never-ending work of strengthening our democracy. While she has more than 20 years of experience in the city and state government, she is equally proud of her longtime work as a realtor and attorney. Senator Lovely believes that her experiences in the private sector and as a public servant have given her an appreciation for the vital job and revenue-creating roles that businesses play. As your state senator, she tries to balance the need for investment in critical areas and, on one hand, with the urgency of minimizing business costs on the other. She finds this to be a useful framework for looking towards the legislative session that began earlier this month. In the brief time that I have to speak with you today, I will summarize a few economic development bills that Senator Lovely has filed and give you an overview of what the new session can mean for you and your businesses. First, Senator Lovely filed a cider tax equity bill that will bring the Commonwealth in line with the federal definition of hard cider. This change will support the growing hard cider industry, which is the fastest growing segment of the alcohol market in Massachusetts. She also filed a bill to help small businesses by creating an environment in which businesses can confidently use independent contractors by telling them precisely how to avoid misclassification disputes. Working with the Associated Industry of Massachusetts, she filed a premium impact statement bill that will control the cost of health insurance by requiring state agencies and the legislature to examine the effects of a law or regulation would have on insurance premiums. She expects that controlling healthcare costs will be one of the 5 areas of focus for the legislature this session, along with fighting climate change, improving our educational system, increasing our housing supply, and fixing our transportation network. Many of you likely noticed that when Governor Baker filed his budget last week, he supports additional fee increases in funding the environment, education, and transportation. Both the House and the Senate will take a close look at the governor's proposals as we move towards the budgetary cycle. Senator Lovely is confident that we will make meaningful progress on all 5 of the areas mentioned. She supports the general consensus formed around providing gateway cities like Peabody and Salem with more funding for education. She hopes that the Chamber and its members will support this extra funding. As a state poor in natural resources, Massachusetts needs to optimize its educational system so today's students can fill tomorrow's jobs in your companies and others. Senator Lovely is likewise optimistic that something will be done to improve housing. Zoning reform could provide low-cost opportunities to increase the supply of housing so that employees can afford to remain in or near the communities in which they work. Senator Lovely looks forward to discussing these and other issues with all of you today and in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah. I'd now like to introduce Michael Devon from Congressman Moulton's office.
Good morning. Local elected, local business owners, thank you for having me here today. Congressman Moulton's obviously in DC. I didn't have a joke prepared, but I'll try to come up with one on the cuff. Everything's going well in the federal government. If you've been paying attention, you obviously know that's a lie. But what I can tell you is that during the most recent shutdown, where thousands of Commonwealth citizens were furloughed, not working, whether they were in the IRS out in North Andover, whether they were in the Coast Guard in Gloucester, or in NOAA in Gloucester, or if they worked in Boston and commuted back home to the 6th District, we had quite a few members wonder about how they were going to pay their rent, how they were going to pay for gas in their vehicles, how are they going to pay for medical bills, how are they going to pay for child daycare. And there was a great concern within our office on what are we doing. Obviously, we weren't the main players in the shutdown, but we obviously felt a sense of responsibility, and we had to own that fact. And time and again, when we were trying to find resources, it was local businesses and local government offices, local schools that stepped up and picked up the slack of what DC was lacking. Whether it be a local business that offered free coffee, free breakfast, citizens that banded together to volunteer, that raised money, that donated gas cards, that dropped off food at the Coast Guard base. It was the local folks here in Massachusetts and the businesses within our community that made it a less stressful situation for all the cases that we were dealing with and all the constituents that were out of work. So thank you to anybody and everybody that stepped up during that time. Unfortunately, it looks like it could be a possibility coming up in the next few weeks. Hopefully we don't get to that point, but it could be. So beyond that wonderful news, here in Massachusetts, we've been doing a lot of work in our office to empower and enable those that aren't exactly on par with the top tier. Areas where there's a lot of opportunity to improve. We worked on passing legislation to designate those areas as opportunity zones. Opportunity zones allow for businesses to invest in depreciated areas and receive back tax gains in order to sustain their businesses there. We've also worked in ensuring that our citizens that do require assistance from the federal government aren't left behind. When I served in the Marine Corps, whenever we would go on a hike, I was always told that you're only as fast as your slowest hiker. And our office has a dedicated casework team that last Congress brought back $1.2 million in federal benefits that weren't originally allocated to the folks, and fought with those agencies and made sure that they were taking care of a lot of folks here in Peabody and the surrounding areas as well. So in terms of legislation that's coming down the pipeline, I wish I could say that we had these wonderful bills. We do. We're working on initiatives with the future of work, future of employment. Seth is an individual that after his graduate school tried to start his own business. It didn't work out, but as a result of that, he understands the pains and struggles that small businesses have to go through. And so he's been working on legislation that can empower and enable small business owners. Right now, I don't see it going through all the way, but we're still fighting down in DC for the people of 6th District. So thanks for having me here, and thanks for everything you do.
Thank you. I'd now like to invite State Representative Ted Spiliotis.
Thank you, Jen. I appreciate it. You know, Mike did a good job, but I did want to say that the name of the chamber has got a new name. It's called Peabody Area Chamber. And I have to tell you, Jenna and her group have been extremely aggressive at reaching out into my hometown of Danvers and have invited me repeatedly over the last year to go to these ribbon cuttings, which I've been attending most. Can't attend them all, but I attend most. And I have to tell you that it's a very wise move. Only through strength of numbers, regionalization, cooperation can you grow, diversifying, and I give you a lot of credit for doing that. She's meeting some stiff competition. Obviously, that big monster, the North Shore Chamber, and also Beverly Area Chamber. So it's kind of an interesting mix of what's going on, and I get to see it firsthand. But Jenna's holding her own, I'll tell you, and more than holding her own. Yeah, so I give you a lot of credit. We're given 2 minutes to speak, and in our lifetime, 2 minutes is the answer to one question in a debate. So I'm going to keep it to that and say to you that along with Jenna at the head table, I'm blessed. I'm blessed to have a mayor that has the foresight and the thought and the wisdom and the ability to look forward and not backwards, and to look at what we did at the Higgins Middle School and now look at Peabody High School. People are frightened in my district. They've been so entrenched with the thought that Peabody has the lowest tax rate in the Commonwealth, pays the lowest electric rates. And they look and they say, oh my God, can we do this? People my age and older. And younger people are saying, are you insane? I've come from this community and I've never seen conditions like this. This is supposed to be a moving city. And I have to tell you that if we can replicate at the high school what we did at the middle school, it'll be astonishing. We built the middle school faster than any community in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, from conception to construction to opening. You couldn't do it any faster. That was important. We have faced tougher challenges today, though. Even though the economy's doing better, even though the Commonwealth's doing better, we have figured something out, which all businesses, I talk about diversification. We have a situation here in which you've alluded to, in which we tied school building funding to 1 penny of the sales tax. And we've tied the MBTA to 1 cent of the sales tax. We did that back in the early 2000s as a way to have some fiscal constraint and an ability to put people under some kind of budget. It sounds great in theory, but when your revenue source is drying up and your demands are increasing, that's tough. So you have a tougher challenge with the high school. And hopefully, as you move forward, we'll figure out a way to help out. But the reality is, Danvers is building an elementary school that's receiving a much smaller amount of funds today than they did for all their other schools, because the demand is just as great, but the funds are just not there. So it's a tougher challenge. But hopefully, as you work your way through that process, you can convince Representative Walsh and myself and Senator Lovely of a way to come up with a little bit more money. And hopefully, we'll be able to do that. I have to say one thing. Representative Walsh and I are one of only 2 of 3 legislators out of 200 that have gone to the State House, taken a break, and come back. It's a wonderful thing, you know, because you can make all those mistakes as a young person, take a little rest, no one ever knows you made those mistakes, and you learn. And when you're young, I don't know about your business, but politics works like this. When you get elected at 25, 30 years old, you're told to kind of go sit in the corner because you really don't know anything. And then you take a break and come back, and everybody thinks you know everything. And it's a wonderful thing. And Representative Walsh is benefiting from that, and I have benefited tremendously from that. And Senator Lovely here, who's not here, but represented well, but would have been here, and I would have said the same thing even if she was here, is that she's one of the fastest movers in the Commonwealth. You see, in politics, we have this kind of little tsunami of our own in which the entire place turns over. You know, that's how democracy works. We elect certain people, then we get tired of them, and we elect other people, and then they change, and they bring in all their friends, and then they change a few years later, and the only constant thing is me. I just stay. And I kind of sit in the back, and I kind of get a few things from my district, and I get a few things voted on, and they change, and they come back. And Senator Lovely, but if you don't catch that tsunami, you're kind of in the doghouse for like 8 years. And that's not going to happen to Senator Lovely with the new administration, so we're very lucky. It's not going to happen to Representative Walsh either, and I can tell you. And for me, I'm just going to tag along. But so I'm kind of blessed in that respect. I will tell you that I do want to say something about the kids here for civics, and I'll end it with this. We were very proud of the legislation we passed, encouraging civics, put it back in the schools. I was not so encouraged at the reaction, to be honest with you. I read editorials in the local paper, and I read comments, people saying, oh my God, I hope these educators don't sway the kids, don't try to put things in their minds that they shouldn't know. I got a little secret for you. That's what politics is all about. Hearing all different ideas, challenging. That's what education is. You go to school, you hear something different, you go home, you tell your mother and father. They say to you, I don't believe that. That's what change is about. That's what thought's about. That's what the challenge of being young and having your ideas and your thoughts that you learned challenged by someone else, supposedly that expert. I have to tell you, there is nothing more sacred for a democracy than to be challenged and have those in leadership challenged. It's the only way we stay strong. So I thank you for that. I don't want you to stop challenging us. I do sometimes kind of want to cringe in a little box, but I do love it, and I thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative Spiliotis. I'd now like to welcome Representative Walsh to the microphone.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me this morning. First, a shout out to Hannah, because that's a very difficult thing to do, is to take someone's place. And to Teddy, you know, years ago, he talked about when I was in the legislature the first round, and I always had to follow Freddie Berry at a podium. So I never tried to be funny. And what I didn't realize is that this guy is following in that same pattern here, and he tells the jokes, and I guess I do the other things. The other part of that is when he talked about coming back into the legislature and people assuming that you have some wisdom. And I just took that, and that's very true, because people will start a story and then they'll say, well, you were here before. And I kind of look at that and think, well, it's a little bit of gray hair and a little extra weight, and all of a sudden they think we're smart. But before I begin, just the one nerve-wracking thing is we have North Shore Bank in front of us, and my two big hecklers right here are a little bit concerning. We have Dave Ankleys and Ben Broder here to throw the tomatoes, so no pressure up here at all. But I just wanted to take a couple minutes to talk about some of the issues that I think we'll face this year. And Senator Lovely and Hannah spoke a little bit about what they were. But of course, transportation is a huge issue for all of us. We know there's a lot of discussion now about the rails and going east-west and connecting some of our major cities, and I think that's incredibly important for our economy, for tourism, and really for the well-being of the Commonwealth. And I like to say we have that little microcosm right here in Peabody, the Peabody-Salem, Danvers area, because we have our own little rail system, and I've been working with the mayor and Representative Spiliotis, state delegation, city council, and the team from the mayor's office, the community development group. Everybody from Peabody is fantastic to work with, and we're very fortunate in that respect. One of the other issues that you will see a lot about this year will be housing. And you know, we witnessed that in Peabody last week, where we have city council grappling with how to add more housing, and is it appropriate in certain areas. And that's just a small project. And we need to add housing for really every level. You know, we had a situation a couple times during the last couple of years. When we talk about housing, everybody assumes we're talking about subsidized housing. But that's just a little piece of it. We also have issues with workforce housing. You know, I sit on the committee on tourism, travel, tourism, and arts, culture, and, geez, I don't even know the name of the committee. Tourism, arts, and cultural development. And what surprised me as we toured the state was that one of the major issues in the tourism industry is the lack of housing for those who work in that field. You know, you go to the Cape during the summertime, you want your service quickly. And you're not always going to get that because we don't have all the employees that we need. And part of that is housing. So, and if you talk to the mayor of Salem, she mentions quite often that some of their waiters, waitresses, bartenders now are getting squeezed out because rents are going up. And we're going to see the same thing here in Peabody as things continue to grow. So we have to keep in mind that housing is not just that subsidized housing we're looking for. It's all the different markets. We had a situation a couple times where we had seniors who sold their homes. They had retired, and they went into a complex, and the rents were increasing much higher than their fixed income, their pension, or whatever they were receiving were rising. And that puts them in a bind. They then leave that and then try to find something that they can afford. It's very difficult. So each range we really need to address. Education, we'll hear a lot about education in the next year and changing the funding formula or looking at the funding formula. And we had a meeting up at Essex Tech last week. And you know, the discussion unfortunately always comes down to larger cities versus the small communities. And we have to some way figure out an equitable solution so that all our children are receiving the benefits they deserve. And really, they're our future, as has been pointed out a couple times this morning already. It's so great to have so many students among us this morning. I think that bodes well for the city of Peabody and for the Commonwealth, having such bright students on their way up. But I just wanted to take a couple minutes to talk about something that you will hear a little bit about, you heard a lot about last year, which was the grand bargain, and I'm sure John will speak a little bit about that in a minute. The grand bargain was so many different factions coming together to settle on minimum wage, paid family medical leave, the sales tax holiday, John, which I'm sure you're thrilled is finally statute. But all these things coming together, and I don't know that anybody was happy with what was ultimately decided on, including legislators, because there are things in that bill that I personally don't like. But the decision was, do we get everybody in a room, work together, and come up with a compromise where everybody will benefit and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts will move forward? Or do we all sit back and let referendum take over, whereby each one of those little issues, and they're not little, each one of those issues would have been voted on, likely passed, and then we would be faced with a far more challenging situation today than we have. So what's happening now is everybody wants to tweak the part that they didn't get last year. So there's, watch for the efforts over the next year or two where people are going to say, well, we need to tweak this item or that item. And I would just caution that if we go down that road, that we may find ourselves in 2020 in the same situation we were in last year, where everybody wants to adopt things by referendum. So we have to tread lightly on that. Just locally, a couple things. I can't stress enough how great it is to work with the people I have the chance to work with every day. Just last week, we had a breakfast at Brothers where North Shore legislators got together, not to talk about big issues, just to get together, Republicans and Democrats, sitting down at the table, welcoming our new member, Pete Capano from Lynn, much as Ted hosted the breakfast for me 2 years ago. But it's a way to get together, understand what each of us is working on, and figure out ways where we can work together as a North Shore delegation to provide the best services for the entire area. A couple examples I just want to touch on before I sit down about working together. We heard reference to Washington not functioning as it should. But I want to really point out an area. We talked about housing a minute ago. I want to really credit the mayor, the city council, really your staff, and my colleagues in the state level. The tannery, the Crown and Shield building, was ready to expire as far as subsidized housing. And we could have lost 280 units towards our 10% limit on affordable housing. And to the mayor's credit, and my colleagues, everyone got together, worked with Mass Housing and the developer, and came to reached a resolution so that those units will be saved. I think it's important for the city of Peabody. It's important for the Commonwealth. And really, I think we set an example on how everybody can work together. Everything isn't always perfect, but we can work together and get things done. And I'm very proud of that. I can't stress enough how much I love this job and love the opportunity to work with everybody. I'll be around after breakfast if anybody has any questions or would like to speak with me on any issue. But thanks for the opportunity. I think Peabody is a great place. And every day when I go into that office, it's how can I help the city be a little bit better? So thanks for having me.
Thank you, Representative Walsh. Without further ado, Mr. Hurst, welcome to the podium.
Thank you, Jenna, and good morning, everybody. I'll try to be brief. The Retailers Association of Massachusetts, when we look at our public policy issues, we look through the lens of two factors of what do small businesses need. They need two things, right? They need, number one, they need higher sales, or number two, they need lower costs. And when we look at our priorities, it's through that lens. And let me just briefly tell you what our two top priorities are for 2019. And they're through those two priorities. First of all, higher sales. We need to finally put behind us this whole issue of an unlevel playing field on the sales tax. We've made a lot of inroads. We'll always have the problem of New Hampshire, right? Unfortunately, all of us here on the North Shore are acutely aware of that competition and that problem of a lot of our consumers leaving our local economy to go up there and invest in someone else's economy. But we have two strikes against us in that we also have the internet, where too many of those transactions are untaxed. Yes, now Amazon does now collect, but about half of their transactions really are not their own transactions. It's those sellers through their marketplace that Amazon runs for them. We don't have those folks yet, and this is our priority for this year to help out small businesses is to pass a marketplace bill, and the governor put it in his budget. Senator Roderick's here in Massachusetts filed a bill as well to make sure that Amazon collects the sales tax for all the folks within their marketplace, and more importantly, folks like eBay does as well, where virtually nothing is taxed. On the side of lowering costs, Tom mentioned, of course, the grand bargain, and no question, payroll costs are going up far faster than sales for a lot of small businesses, and a lot of it has to do with a minimum wage increase. Over when it's all said and done, both increases that we've seen, we will have seen an 88% increase in the minimum wage from $8 to $15, over 9 years. The cumulative inflation rate over that period of time probably will be under 20%. 88%, 20%. That's a problem. And you add on to that the fact that we have the worst unemployment insurance system in the entire country. We were recently rated number 50. Not so much that our benefits are out of whack, it's that we do not police who gets those benefits. Most 49 states require a minimum time work test and also a minimum earnings test. We only have the minimum earnings test. We do not have a minimum time work test. And that's wrong. We need to fix that. But really the biggest issue beyond minimum wage and UI and now paid leave and paid sick leave and everything else that we're dealing with that add up to higher payroll costs is small business health insurance. And that is our top priority to do within Beacon Hill this year. And it's difficult because it's very complicated. You have to be a insurance guru to figure out what's going on. But a combination, small businesses in Massachusetts, and when I say small business, it's 50 lives and under, are frankly discriminated more than small businesses in 49 other states. They're discriminated against versus businesses with 51 and more, whether they're big businesses or big government. Why? Is because under Romney Care, the powers that be threw small businesses into the same risk pool as individuals. That doesn't happen in 49 other states. It didn't happen in Massachusetts until Romney Care. But it was almost livable, frankly, until the ACA came along, because the one deal under Romney Care that made it livable was that we had what's called state rating factors that fairly apportioned the risk and the claims between a small business and individuals. And I don't want to talk negatively about individuals, but the reality is in 49 states, individuals are in their own risk pool, and small businesses have their own risk pool. And numbers came out this past fall that really put a spotlight on this. It shows that Massachusetts has the second lowest individual insurance premium rates for individuals in the country. Second lowest, even though we hear over and over again we're the highest healthcare costs in the entire country, right? Yet somehow we got the second lowest individual premiums in the country. Well, we often neglect the other part of that study that showed that we have the second highest small business premiums in the country. So what's happening is that small businesses and their employees are being asked to pay more so individuals can pay less. And it's an unfair redistribution of premiums that it doesn't happen for public employees, get their coverage through the GIC or some other buying group. It doesn't happen for big business. They don't cross-subsidize individuals one penny, yet all of you as small businesses do. That's unfair. And we've got to come to grips with that fact that we need small business health insurance relief. And frankly, we need to have it done by July 1st of this year. Because these rating factors that I talked about, the federal government gave us a runway that expired December 31st of this year for Beacon Hill to decide, well, do you want to go back and fix that mistake? Do you want to separate individuals and small groups back into separate risk pools? So those rating factors are still in effect, partially, but they expire at the end of this year. So what we're looking at January 1 is another massive increase in health insurance premiums for small businesses unless Beacon Hill acts. So this is our top issue. We're asking for chambers of commerce and like-minded employer representatives and small businesses and good small business supporting Beacon Hill representatives and legislators to join us in this call. And this should be the top priority for healthcare reform in Massachusetts this year. Others will talk about, we got to do something about hospitals or providers or big pharma or behavioral health. Small business health insurance premiums should be the top priority. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom. I'd now like to welcome Mayor Betancourt to the podium.
Oh, good morning, everyone. Jenna, thank you. Mike, Chris, I want to recognize and thank our elected officials who are here today who work so hard for our community. Very fortunate to work with so many good people. The city of Peabody, so many talented people that work so hard for our community. PMLP, just a bright light for our community. And I look around to this room, and I say this often, we're so blessed to have people not only that are great leaders for our business community, but people that care for our city and invest in our community, invest in our kids, and mean so much to us. I look around, Warren Wah, Matt Genzali, Ed Lamazny, Chris Ross, Dennis Cataldo. So many people give of themselves and really make a difference in our community. I want to thank all of you for that. I could mention many names, but I want to thank all of you for that. So I gave my State of the City address a couple of weeks ago at City Hall, and those that know me well know that I always try to be extremely positive. Certainly there are things in our community that need attention. There are concerns we have. There's work to be done. There's improvements to be made. But I'm very proud of the progress we have made, and I think an important part of my job is to be a promoter of the city. And some people don't like the word that I use, but a cheerleader for our community, and I think that's important. And I want to make sure that people know some of the exciting things that are happening within the city of Peabody. So I've certainly reduced the amount of pages that I had in my speech, but I did want to touch on a few things. I've always looked at the job as really there are 4 pillars to my job. 1 is education, 2 is public safety, 3 is quality of life issues, and then 4 is economic development. So I'm going to try to speak for a few minutes just on economic development to give you a taste of some of the things that are taking place in our city, some of the improvements that we have made. When I was first sworn in 2012, I shared my vision for Peabody's future. And that night I spoke about how we needed to reignite the sense of pride that we had in our community. I felt that Peabody was stagnant.
that we were deteriorating. There was improvements that needed to be made. Our downtown was thought of as little more than a cut-through to get to Salem or to other communities. We were plagued by vacant storefronts. We were plagued by flooding events that were causing major problems. I felt that Centennial Park really lacked an identity. There were vacant storefronts. There was poor signage and wayfinding, and I felt at the time few prospects for new growth. The future of the North Shore Mall was in doubt as it struggled to compete with newer shopping trends and entertainment alternatives. And the city's permitting process was just too cumbersome, and that needed to be changed. Our buildings, particularly our schools, were in major need of disrepair and in major need of better facilities. Our police department and fire department, I both thought, were inadequately staffed and needed newer equipment. Our water infrastructure, which I'll touch on shortly, was breaking down significantly. Many decades lack of preventative maintenance, lack of investment. Our roads, sidewalks, parks, playgrounds, open spaces were all in desperate need of attention. Our lakes and ponds, like Crystal Lake, needed maintenance, and investment needed to be made. There was no one person to blame for any of this, no one mayor, no one city council or school committee. In most cases, it was simply a matter of a former manufacturing city showing its age, in need of a new vision, and the hard work to make that vision a reality. Now let's fast forward to 2019, and we have a much different story to tell. Thanks to the hard work of so many people in this room and so many more across our community, Peabody, Massachusetts is a city on the move, in a city that is nationally recognized as a great place to live, raise a family, or start a business. First, downtown Peabody. Stand on the cusp of an historic revitalization with new shops, restaurants, apartments, and our very own community theater, the Black Box Theater. Flooding, while still a concern, is much less frequent and much less severe thanks to the construction of a massive Scouting Way retention basin, which holds hundreds of thousands of gallons of water that typically flow to our downtown. And those local news trucks that parked on Foster Street. And many of you saw them. We were always in the news years ago. Whenever there was rain, they would just plant their cameras right there and just wait for the first shows of puddling. You all saw it. Well, they're long gone. They have not been here in years. They're off looking at other communities to tell stories of doom and gloom elsewhere. Before I leave the subject of downtown Peabody, I want to make special mention of 43 Main Street, which was a vacant building for decades. It's being redeveloped as we speak. It's really amazing what's taking place by some entrepreneurs, Sarah Narkis and her mother, Ellen Bash. Their business, Oleo Peabody, features 6,000 square feet of event space for weddings, fundraisers, galas, trade shows, and expos. When people ask me why we invested nearly $6 million in state and local money over the last few years to redesign Main Street and Peabody Square, I point to new businesses like theirs, and new ones like Create and Escape, and La Siesta, and Granite Coast Brewery, and The Next Mex Thing, and the beautiful apartments that are being built on 1 Main Street by Pat Tedisco, who's here today. This was our vision for Main Street and Peabody Square, and our vision is becoming a reality. Centennial Park has experienced a renaissance of its own in recent years, beginning with the construction of Centennial Crossing, a 40,000 square foot plaza featuring shops, restaurants, and professional services. And this year, the construction of Expeditors International's new 140,000 square foot office and warehouse complex is well underway on Jubilee Drive. New construction, new jobs, new revenue, the largest expansion of Centennial Park in decades. The North Shore Mall, the city's largest employer and largest taxpayer, is investing in its future here in Peabody, and I want to thank Mark Whiting, who's here today, and his team, to the tune of over $100 million. And it is investing in Peabody's future because Simon Properties, like all of us, see the dynamic future we are collectively building here in our city. This investment is designed to entice a new generation of customers who seek an integrated entertainment, shopping, and dining experience. The mall's newest addition, the Promenade at North Shore Mall, boasts several new restaurants, including Bancroft and Tony C's, Cafe Nero, Hop and Grind, and Amigos Mexican Kitchen and Tequila Bar. The Promenade also features an outdoor entertainment and recreation plaza and a host of amenities designed with today's shopper in mind. Lifetime Fitness is coming to Peabody, North Shore Mall, with a 114,000 square foot healthy living, healthy aging, and healthy entertainment destination on the site near the former Sears building. As you may have seen, it is coming down or has come down almost completely. Scheduled to open in 2020, the building will include a ground-level outdoor resort-like aquatic area featuring lap and leisure pools, whirlpools, and restaurants. Tesla, the California-based electric car company, is in the process of bringing a dealership to the current Sears Automotive Center building at the North Shore Mall. Economic development is not just limited to downtown Peabody, Centennial Park, and the North Shore Mall. Bonkers Plaza is the site of a new 30,000 square foot entertainment complex featuring restaurants, a bowling alley, and the latest in virtual reality gaming. The complex is expected to draw visitors from around the region and help attract other new businesses to the plaza. The entire plaza redevelopment is projected to total $20 million and result in new jobs and tens of thousands of dollars in new revenue for the city. The Mills at Pulaski Street, formerly an abandoned tannery, is now home to a brewery, fitness center, daycare, television studios, antique shops, and a high-end consignment boutique. And again, new jobs and tens of thousands of dollars in new revenue from this up-and-coming section of our city. And I wanted to recognize Ed Greeley. Talk to him for a few minutes and see about his vision. It's an amazing vision for the city, and I'm hoping that the City Council supports the efforts that we're making over at Pulaski Street. For the 4th year in a row, our average residential home value has increased, this year by a staggering 8.9%, which reflects the highest value in our city's history. Recently, USA Today and Realtor.com reported that Peabody is a home to the 5th hottest real estate market in the country. And I love saying that. I say that everywhere I go. The 5th hottest real estate market in the country. Yes. Number 1 in New England. Peabody homes sell in an average of 20 days, which is the lowest in Massachusetts and is 46 days quicker than the rest of the country. That's a great story, how a former leather manufacturing city has become a thriving 21st century city with a revitalizing downtown. We're not done yet. A growing business park, the highest residential home value in its history, and I'm going to say it again, the 5th hottest real estate market in the country. So what does the future hold? I know time is running late. There are a couple of future projects I did want to mention. First is our Clean and Sustainable Water Infrastructure Plan, which is a 4-year plan, a 4-phase plan, $36 million initiative to stabilize, modernize, and upgrade Peabody's water infrastructure. I am going to spare you the details. It is not very exciting to talk about water and sewer infrastructure, but it is extremely important. The project will result in significant improvements in water quality and water system reliability for homeowners throughout our city. Rehabilitation of the Winona Water Treatment Plant, coupled with the work done on our Coolidge Water Treatment Plant following the fire last year, will give Peabody 2 modern treatment plants and continue to allow us to utilize our own natural resources, produce our own water, and control our own water rates for the next generation. Last time I looked, we had the 2nd lowest water and sewer rates in the state. It will go up slightly because of this project, but we will still be far below anybody regionally. And I want to recognize the City Council for their support in that. The next investment to secure our long-term future is the Central Street project. Peabody has been approved as eligible to receive $11 million in state and federal funds to rebuild the entire Central Street corridor, beginning at its intersection with Walnut Street, right near Bill and Bob's, and continuing through Wilson Square, a short distance down Route 114. This project includes new road surfaces and sidewalks, crosswalks and traffic signals, and modern landscape amenities and design amenities. It will improve traffic flow, accessibility, and most importantly, safety and quality of life for tens of thousands of Peabody residents. And finally, one last item I wanted to mention is the time for our community to look at a new high school. Despite insignificant improvements we've made to the cafeteria, outdoor athletic complex, field house, and auditorium, much of the rest of the school is simply lacking and will require millions of dollars to maintain, keep it functioning, and up to date with state and local business codes. I always apologize to our students who are in the class right now, in our civics class, because they missed a brand new middle school, and I'm hoping in a few years they're going to miss a brand new high school. So again, I apologize to all of our students. If you could just give me a moment, this is something that, and the high school is going to be years in the making. I mean, that is going to be 5 to 7 years down the road. There's a lot of work ahead of us, and our state legislators have been just so terrific in supporting our initiatives. But this is something I think we have to do. We have the best middle school in the state. Other middle schools, other communities are modeling what we did here in Peabody. And as Chairman Spiliotis said, we put it up faster than any community has ever put up a school of that size, which is a real feather in our cap. But now we need to look at Peabody High School. That building needs work, and we need to come up with our long-term plan. One item, though, I didn't want to discuss, and I thought this might be of interest to people here, and this is something that I've been wrestling with now for a period of time, and it's a growing concern that I feel like a number of our students at Peabody High School are getting lost. Those that know, we are, over the last few years, our scores have gone down. Our test scores have gone down at Peabody High School. And we've been trying to figure out why that is. And we've met with the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, their leaders. They've reviewed our scores. We've had multiple meetings to try to determine the improvements we need to make and why things are happening. And very simply, I think, when meeting with the department is our top students are on par with any other community in the state. In fact, they told me the top 90+% are as good as any test scores in any community. You can give me any one, and we're right there. And I was always confused because when I go to Peabody High School and I see the amazing work that's taking place and the talent that I've gotten to witness every year when I go there, and to see these students, the schools that they go to, and the futures that they have, I want to make sure that all of our students have that ability. And right now, I'm not sure if they are. When we joined the Essex Tech Regional Vocational School, it was a combination of 3 schools. It was Essex Aggie, North Shore Vocational, and the Peabody Vocational School. Now, at the time, some of you may remember the Peabody Vocational School was located actually at the old Higgins Middle School. And it was electrical, carpentry, plumbing, auto body, auto mechanic. All those courses were being taken for those students that were going to make a living with their hands, be the machinists, the tradespeople of our community. What's happening now is our students that are applying to the Essex Regional Vocational School, it's based purely on grades, attendance, and other factors. And a lot of our top students are going to that school, and it's a wonderful school. It's amazing the opportunities that our students are having, the curriculum that's being taught, the diverse areas of study. But what's happening is those students that were at the Peabody Vocational School are not getting into the Essex Tech Regional School. Those tradespeople, those people that are going to pursue a career in plumbing or carpentry or whatever the case may be, those students are not getting into those schools. And it's becoming a concern. They're coming to Peabody High School. Right now we have culinary arts, we have cosmetology, we have a nursing program, which is terrific. We have an early childhood education program, which is terrific. But there are not those hands-on opportunities for some of our students, those that need it. And what I'm pursuing now and what I'm going to be working on in the year to come is to create a co-op opportunity for our students where they can do maybe a split schedule or be brought over to the regional vocational school after hours to get that training, to get that educational opportunity, to utilize that equipment, to work with those professors and teachers to make sure that they have the opportunity. When I go to Centennial Park, and some of the businesses are here today, what I hear all the time is they need machinists, they need tradespeople, and we need to make sure that our students are not lost. And some of those students that are coming to Peabody High School, and this is not just Peabody High School, this is Salem, this is Beverly, this is other communities. But it's very, I hold this in my heart very deeply because we need to make sure that all of our students are getting that education. And we need to work with the Essex Tech. And to their credit, they've been wonderful. They're working, we've met multiple times, we're working on kind of collaboratively some way to do a pilot program to make this a reality. That's extremely important to me, extremely important for our children's future, to make sure all of our kids, whether they're going the college route, whether they're going the military route, whether they're going into the trade to make a living, we need to make sure that they have what they need. I just wanted to mention that. That's something, again, we're talking our whole water infrastructure is going to be completely redone over the next couple of years. Central Street is going to be a major revitalization, which I think is going to make a major difference for our downtown area. Our new high school, hopefully, will be working towards in the years ahead. But we need to make sure that our students, all of our students, are getting what they need. I want to thank all of you. As you see, I get pretty passionate about that. This is something that I care deeply about. I love this job. I feel very blessed to be here. Peabody has a lot things to be proud of. We have a lot of room to grow and a lot of improvements to be made. And I think all of us working collectively together, people in this room, people across our city, we're going to continue to have a great community. And I want to thank all of you in the Chamber of Commerce for everything you do for us. Thank you.
We're going to open the floor up to questions. I just need to figure out a microphone thing here. Can I give you? So Liz White from North Shore Bank has a microphone. If you have a question that you'd like to pose to someone up here, just raise your hand and she'll bring it over to you. Any takers?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for being here, and thank you for all the Peabody High students for being here. Seriously, good for you. I did not care about this stuff when I was your age, so seriously, I didn't care about it. But as a millennial and a former Peabody High alumni, I think anyone in this room who knows me knows what I'm about to ask. You touched on the housing crisis. As a millennial, as someone who lives on my own, pays incredibly expensive rent in Cambridge. I'm curious about what the state of Massachusetts is doing for people that are interested in the tiny house movement. I know that the state has adopted, I think, Appendix B, is it? It's a new smaller housing code. I'm curious, a lot of other states have kind of stayed up to date with the movement because they have more lax zones and code laws. So what's kind of the consensus on the state level? Because I've talked to some local city officials, and I appreciate them for listening to me, I really do. But I'm curious on the state level, what's going on with that?
Well, the last year there was a fairly comprehensive housing bill that did not make it all the way through the legislative session. I expect that will occur this year. As far as the tiny house part of it, I don't have a quick answer for you because usually what happens with specifics like that is it is a local zoning issue. So really in the housing bill, it would give municipalities more tools in how they create their zoning areas. Let me just move a little bit on that, if you don't mind, to the mobile home issue. Because manufactured homes are an alternative for people. The cost of a manufactured home is significantly less than buying a brand new stick-built home. And I think it's something that you will see grow in the years ahead. So that will probably be a piece of that as well. It doesn't specifically answer your question on the tiny homes, but I do think it will come out of the zoning regulations piece of the legislation, and then we'll go to municipalities. But it's really up to the local communities to decide where and when and how they would locate communities like that.
Anyone else? You guys still sleeping? Yeah, it's early. Oh, here we go. We have Jackie from Eastern Bank.
Thank you, guys. I don't want to keep anybody here any longer than we have to be, but thank you so much for the great event today. Excuse me, I do just have a question for, I believe, John, is it? You had touched a base on a very, very serious concern that we've had with the small business being offered insurance and limiting the cost on their insurance. So there are quite a few financial institutions here, and I know this is something that you have a target of really 11 months now since January is done to get to a solution. So what type of things, if your ideal situation, you get to a solution that, us in business development can offer something, and what that may look like in the future to our small business owners, to their budget?
Well, excuse me, sorry. I really think we need to start looking at opportunities for small businesses like big businesses and government already do. You know, group buying, create entrepreneurial ways for them to save money, and you know, it's somewhat happening in a way that I would say is not a good way. There are a lot of small businesses that are going in the direction of maybe self-insuring or maybe even a PEO type of option, which is that's professional employment organizations, which are fine, but it really takes away a lot of your ability to, it's really employee leasing. And that's not a great thing for the employee or employer alike. We need to have ways that small businesses can do, just like the reps have, you know, the group insurance commission. We need to have group buying. We went down that route with cooperatives under state law, but unfortunately the ACA did away with that, our ability to do that and save money for them. So we need to look at alternatives like that so they can help themselves. You know, if a small business wants to go out and shop, and if they can convince their employees to engage in wellness activities and to be a better shopper of healthcare services, look for the high quality but lower cost options, that should result in lower premiums. And unfortunately, in the current dynamic of this merged marketplace that we have in Massachusetts, they are really discriminated against, and that does not happen for small business. So we need to really level the playing field and apply some of the options that already exist for government and big business down to the level of small business.
Any others? Oh, we got some over here.
Good morning. Mine is really not a question. Mine is a thank you. Coming into Peabody to do business has been incredible. Again, my name is Pat Tedesco, Tedesco Properties. We're developing the 1 Main Street, which is the old O'Shea. We developed 3 Main Street where we have La Siesta, and we're hoping to continue to do some more. I've done a lot of business in a lot of different communities and found that my hometown is where we belong. So we've invested everything that we have outside the community to come back to Peabody. But what's made it so easy is working with the great mayor that we have, a state representative who was a city councilor at the time, who voted for us to go forward with 1 Main Street. So my thank you is to the chamber, to the mayor, to the city council, to his great team. Thank you for making it so easy to be in Peabody and invest. Thank you.
I think we have Randy.
Good morning. This is a wonderful forum, very interesting today. I have heard some wonderful things going on with the state, with the city government, with the Retailers Association, and one thing that sticks in the back of my mind when we talk about new schools and the development of Peabody is still, for me, I think about the opioid crisis that's going on, and it's mentioned, it used to be mentioned a lot. Is the city, is the state still looking at trying to solve this problem? Do you see any light at the end of the tunnel? Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, I'm sorry, Randy, we missed that one. But we didn't really miss it. It's talked about nearly every place we go. I think anytime you're talking about drugs or any type of addiction, it's awareness, it's staying on top. There's many fronts in it. I don't want to take up your time with it, but just realize that we're pursuing the pharmacies, we're pursuing the medical community. We've been in the forefront. Massachusetts is basically #1 in this fight by placing restrictions on physicians and the pharmaceutical industry on what we are allowing them to sell and to distribute through their prescriptions. This is a crisis that's different than in the past, where people become addicted through, by accident almost, by getting legal prescriptions and then finding themselves doing illegal activities because the cost is so great and the addiction is so strong. We're in the forefront. We have not forgotten, and the efforts we have taken, they're beginning to multiply. Where we put prescription restraints on doctors, we're looking at making it even more so. If there's suits being filed by the Attorney General at the pharmaceutical industry, similar to like the tobacco industry. We recognized a long time ago that the tobacco industry was successful by going after teenagers and children. And we recognize that the industry, people begin addictions as children, more so than as adults. You pick up that newspaper, and now every single time you see, sadly, a 28-year-old person that's passed away, they may have passed away through natural cause, but you're wondering, and you're concerned. So it's on our forefront. I will tell you the truth, and this is where we talk about bipartisanship. The governor's not going to let us forget, because he's on top of it more than anyone else. So I think you should feel comfortable in what we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to speak on that briefly myself. There's no certainly easy answer, easy fix to this epidemic that has swept across our country. Our focus in the city has been on education and trying to connect with our youth. There's a great deal of pressure. It's not easy being a kid, a young man, young woman, and growing up now. I know I have a teenage daughter, and I'm going to have a second teenage daughter in 3 days. And it's not easy for our students. We decided to invest into our schools with counseling, mental health professionals. We have a tremendous partnership with Boston Children's, with Leahy. They have donated to the city of Peabody, and 3 years ago, we opened up a student-based health center at Peabody High School for the purposes of helping with counseling needs, mental health needs, and to work with those students that are struggling in different ways. And it's working very well, but we actually need to expand that. We've been having discussions to expand that program, and even now trying to maybe do something at the middle school as well for those students. I think it's an important investment and part of the education that we need to provide here in the city. But it's certainly not an easy fix. It's really all of us working together, and that's what we've been focusing on, is on our children.
On the federal front, there's a lot of actually bipartisan legislation addressing this issue. From our office alone, we had a bipartisan support for bills for alternative means of pain management, especially with veterans in the VA, utilizing CBD, which is a cannabinoid, that's the non-psychoactive part of marijuana, allowing the VA to research that and utilize it so that veterans aren't just being handed bags of pills and told, hey, deal with your pain this way, and other alternatives. But there is, both at the local, state, and federal level, a lot of efforts being done in that regard.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Macy.
Anyone else? All right. Well, I thank you all for coming. This concludes our event. I encourage you to please take this with you. We have articles from most of our speakers today in here. It gives you a little bit more information, as well as information about the chamber and our upcoming events for the year. Thank you for joining us, and I hope you have a wonderful week.